Just finished baking this 100% whole grain rye sourdough. I love this bread, one of my all-time favorites. Whole grain, hearty, healthy, full of fiber, low glycemic index, and in this video, I'm gonna show you how to make it from start to finish. It's really easy, let's get started. This 100% rye bread has two builds, the first being overnight and the second being a warm build in the morning. So we're gonna start with levain build number 1, and it's equal parts of flour, water, and starter. We're gonna use this sourdough starter here. This is a rye starter. It was fed last night. Looks like it needs a feed, but smells very acidic. It looks good. It's full of bubbles, and we'll get that going. Throw a lid on it, and we're just gonna place it up here at room temperature, and this is gonna rise for about 10 to 14 hours whenever I get to it in the morning. It's been approximately 12 hours, and it's time to do our second build for this rye bread. You can see up on the shelf that the starter's risen overnight. It's nice and bubbly. It looks amazing. It smells really acidic, and we're gonna just feed this into here. So we're using really warm water here. I've actually got 50 Celsius water there. So we're gonna do equal parts, 250 grams of starter, which is everything from last night, 250 grams of our hot water, and 250 grams of rye flour. We're gonna mix this up really well, and then we're gonna leave this for 90 minutes at room temperature. We're gonna place a lid on this, set a timer for 90 minutes, and in that time, this is gonna double in size or a little bit over, get nice and puffy, light, smells super acidic. I'm just gonna set this off to the side and get this cleaned up. Welcome back, 90 minutes is up, and it's time to mix our rye sourdough. So as you can see, the dough is visibly risen. It's like bubbly. Smells amazing, and it's time to mix this dough. We've got our levain in the bowl, 50 degrees Celsius water. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but so we're gonna start by just dissolving a bit of the starter in the water. Then we're gonna add our rye flour and salt. Small circles to begin, and just work your way around until all the flour is absorbed, and then we can go in there with a dough scraper and get this. Teamwork makes the dream work. If you haven't noticed, it takes a lot of effort to make these videos. So if you're watching this, do me a favor and hit that like button so we can get more bakers to find the channel. We are almost at 100,000 subscribers, and it's something I'd really like to get because I want to put that silver play button right there. So if you are watching, share this video, like it, subscribe. Maybe make the bread first, and if you're successful and the bread's good, then subscribe. Okay, now that this is mixed mostly, I'm just gonna get in here with the dough scraper and start to fold this over on itself to make sure that we get all of the dry flour bits here. You'll notice that this is quite firm. All right. Once the dough's fully mixed, I'm just gonna flatten this with a dough scraper. Let's take the temperature real quick. This is 30.4 Celsius, perfect. We're gonna throw a towel over this, and we're gonna set a timer for 45 minutes. In 45 minutes, we'll shape our dough, get it into a banneton, then it's gonna rise again, and we're gonna bake it. Super easy bread, very fast to make. See you in 45 minutes. 45 minutes is up, and it's time to shape our rye bread. Now, I'm gonna use this waffle pattern banneton today. It's got this kind of cool waffle. It's made out of wood pulp, and it's from Bratformen in Germany. If you don't have one of these, you can use a standard banneton, or if you don't have anything, you could just line a bowl with a towel and put it in the bowl, and then just be very gentle when you flip it out. I really like the way this looks, so we're gonna use that. So to start, I'm gonna dust my banneton pretty heavily and try to get in all those cracks so I get that beautiful pattern. For this dough, we're gonna shape this very differently than other breads that I've probably shaped with you. So we're gonna put a good amount of rye flour onto the table. I actually learned how to do this when I was working in Germany, in Freiburg, and they would do 2 at a time, but I can't do that myself. So we're gonna do 1. So we're gonna flip this out. Now, if you wanted to make smaller loaves, because admittedly this is a pretty big loaf of bread, you could use 2 bannetons or divide the recipe in half and just make a smaller version. But I like making a really big bread, and this bread keeps for a really super long time. So for me, it's better to just make one bigger loaf. Then we're gonna flour the top of this heavily. And then we're gonna use a dough scraper, and we're gonna just start to fold the bread onto itself. As you do that, we're just gonna move the bread gently on the table so that it's not in the same spot, and because that's gonna get sticky on the table and the flour will kind of start to stick. And if it is sticking, you can always put a little bit more flour down. Once you've got a bit of structure here, you can go in with your hands, and we're just gonna kind of knead the dough onto itself to try and make a round ball. And it's not gonna be perfect. There's not a lot of gluten or structure in this bread. So you don't have to, really work it. Bring it into a ball like that, press the dough onto itself. And then we're gonna flip this over and we're just gonna round this off with some floured hands and try to make a nice round kind of ball. Something like that. After, we're gonna just gently flip this up into our banneton, and then you're gonna roll the banneton around to give it that circular shape, because when you pick it up, you might kind of damage it. So just roll it around a bit, and then just gently sprinkle a touch of flour in those sides to make sure we got the whole coating. We're gonna put a towel on this and let this rise for 40 to 45 minutes. So I'm gonna turn my oven on to full blast, which is 500 Fahrenheit, with a baking steel, or if you have a pizza stone, and we'll fire this into a hot oven. So I'm gonna get cleaned up and I'll see you in 45. 45 minutes is up. This bread is ready for the oven. You do not want to overproof this, and we're getting close. I can tell it's puffed up. When I press, it springs back, thankfully, with a slight indent. We're gonna use a piece of parchment and a firing peel to put this into our preheated oven on a baking steel. So very carefully, just flip this out. Now you can see it started to crack here and here and here, and this is ready for the oven. So you always want to give it that minute to start to open up so that these can rip open and give it that nice aesthetic when it's done. We're gonna do a very basic steam here. I've got some boiling water, and I'm actually gonna use my kid's thermos and a little measuring cup. There's no preloaded lava rock situation. We're just gonna throw this in. We're gonna bring this over, gently fire it into the oven, and then throw in some steam. Now we're gonna drop the temperature to 450. I'm gonna set a timer. We're gonna bake it for 25 minutes, open the door to vent some of the steam, and then another 25 minutes to finish the bake. Our bread is out of the oven, 100% rye bread, looks amazing, kind of looks like a giant cookie. It's as big as my daughter's head. And I didn't go into a lot of detail about how to work with rye, troubleshooting rye, but I just wrote a full guide on my website, and this recipe is there with all the details, so I'll leave a link for that in the description below. It's best if you let this bread cool all the way before slicing it, so somewhere like 6 to 8 hours. However, and I've got one that I baked yesterday, so I'll cut it open just so you can see what it looks like, because otherwise the comments will be full of people saying, why didn't you show the crumb? Which is fair. So here you go.